GM. Are we at the
GM,
bottom?
welcome to the official month of October. Or as Arch would actually say, I found it funny that they tweeted that it's Archtober. Yeah, just a lot to recap, really. We've been kind of out of pocket for the last 2 weeks or so, primarily because of Token the other week, and then, yeah, a couple of us, well, me, I got sick after Token, so I had to pull the plug. But we're back. It's October. Start of October has been mass liquidations on the Bitcoin side of things. So it's good that we're starting strong. Bonzi, any thoughts to that? Great start
Um,
to October, isn't it?
when up in October, someone broke the start of it, but no, I found it pretty interesting. I was digging into it, and there's some stats or a graph I saw of like five of the last bull runs started in October. There's a lot of hype around it, but you know, when knowledge is that abundant, um, it's kind of like the happening situation, in my opinion. Um,
So what you're saying is the math is mathing, and this time is different.
the math isn't mathing right now, but um, no, I guess it's an abstract thought. There's like no one variable that makes it a true statement, but it's interesting when like an obvious trade becomes obvious. There's whales and counter trades that uh, make a lot of sense to do. I don't know. It's kind of like tinfoil hat thinking a little bit, but I am curious to see. There's just too many bull flags kind of pointing towards it, where it's a little bit too appetizing. But I don't know. What are your thoughts? It seems like everyone's bullish on the timeline, um, and you know, Modangs, or whatever the hippo is the only thing that's really secured a,
I don't
a
even know
frothy
what's
win.
happening, man. All right, look. Long story short is, up only markets tend to start after consensus isn't necessarily there, and I think we have an overwhelming amount of bullish consensus on the table. Not necessarily a bad thing. I think the market just ebbs and flows in its organic sense. And I think in most cases, people actually forget what like a bull run feels like. It's not just perpetual up only energy to infinity. I mean, certainly it's like that at bits and pieces and moments of time. But the reality is that it kind of, you know, creeps upwards violently and then it doesn't for a little bit. And then the upwards trend is sustained, and then you have like mass euphoria at the end, which is probably the only thing that most people remember from a bull run in general, is that like crazy velocity spike that gave them the insane dopamine rush, or at least the moments of those insane dopamine rushes. But it's certainly not like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
certainly
when
not like,
everyone took the screenshots and didn't sell.
yeah, or it's exactly how we had it on ordinals and runes, 3 times now. Be it wave one, wave two, wave three, BRC 20 wave, BRC 20 wave two. We never had a runes wave just yet, but we're starting to see some promising activity, at least from like the volume perspective. I'm just looking at it right now. There's the top five runes are about let's call it 15 BTC in volume. Broadly speaking, that's a drop in the bucket. Like some of the highest days in Bitcoin, we've had 50, 60, 100 BTC days for collections. I'm not saying that yeah, some of those were like for fungibles, like Ordi, Sats, those were big ones. Wizard, Pups on the BRC 20 side had monstrous volume days. And then yeah, we had massive volumes on some of the top ordinal collections. We still don't necessarily have a fantastic user experience and AMMs on Bitcoin, but there's early indication that there are ways to do it. We have DotSwap doing it in a custodial manner. And then there's a couple of teams that actually have been working on a couple of things, and I'm happy to have Diego up here because he's co-founder of Bitflow, which is aiming to be a Runes AMM. Diego, I don't know if how much you want to share just yet because you guys haven't shared too much. Um, but obviously, in my post, I think it was like a day or two ago when we spoke, I was super optimistic in everything that you guys are doing, pushing towards a more decentralized approach to the liquidity pools themselves. I think that's a big factor of adoption. And then two is really incentivizing those liquidity pools correctly. In other circumstances on the AVM side, you have points farming that drives a lot of the liquidity pools attention, and really like bootstraps them kind of moving forward. So I'm kind of excited to see those types of strategies being unlocked on the Bitcoin side, with a direct L1 front end that I can spend my native Bitcoin and buy runes into. So yeah, I don't know how much you want to share. We can drill deep down into it, or we can just keep it surface level. So you tell me.
Yeah, no, thanks for bringing me up. Yeah, I think users, back to what you were saying, users are willing to trade, give up custody of their tokens and give up everything that's on L1 in order to bridge or transfer their assets to centralized exchange for two main reasons: liquidity and user experience. So we thought, how do we keep users on L1? And I know that there's a few options out there, marketplaces, but it's still kind of clunky because users want, they want that DeFi experience that they can have on other chains, especially when we talk about meme coins on Solana, for example, or even Ethereum. So as a DEX on Stacks and a DEX aggregator, we built the infrastructure for the AMM, and we said, okay, how can we connect the L2 to L1 so that instead of moving your tokens to a centralized exchange and giving complete custody to another third party and giving up your tokens and removing them from your wallet, how can we bring this decentralized exchange platform to L1 and still deliver a good user experience? So on the front side, I think it's important for the user to be able to transact and to swap on L1 without any implications and as fast as possible, but also being secure without having to move the funds. On the other side, instead of an off-chain calculation or something that's happening in a centralized manner where you're giving up custody, we would have the AMM calculations happening on the layer 2. In this case, would be Stacks, right? So from an LP, he would be providing a liquidity on the Runes AMM. And then from the user, he's basically going to be swapping and transferring and buying and selling tokens directly on L1 using the same wallet. We're lucky to have Xverse, Ledger, OKX, and other wallets that are both compatible with Bitcoin and layer 2, such as Stacks. And we think that's a good mix, right? You're still decentralized finance. You're not giving up custody of your token. You're doing these transactions on L1. You're driving fees. You're supporting Bitcoin ecosystem in general. And at the end of the day, it's with the Nakamoto upgrade that's coming, you'll be able to deliver fast speed, low gas fees, and also access to other L2s in the future. So that's we feel like that's a win-win because right now you don't have many choices and you got to give up a lot to access liquidity and the user experience that you expect in DeFi.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you.
Yeah, I think anybody that knows us and has used our product thinks of us probably as a Stacks Dex primarily because that's where we built our infrastructure. Uniswap style pools, Curve style pools, Jupiter style aggregator. But been talking with Diego about this a lot and something we wanted to bring live. But you're not, at least the way that we see it, like if you can't trade by sending a Bitcoin transaction, then like are you really a Bitcoin DEX? Maybe not. right? And people have different opinions on that, but I think the most valuable contribution that we can make to the Bitcoin space is helping people transact on layer one, giving them more of a reason to transact on layer one, making it a nice user experience. And I think we can abstract away some of um, the bad trading experiences that we've seen with runes and BRC20s by leveraging stacks as the where the AMM lives. But for the user, for the trading experience, it's just you're sending Bitcoin or you're sending runes, and then it's being traded through the AMM and then bridged back out. So yeah, it's a pretty cool design. Happy to dive into more of the technical if we need to, but
Yeah,
yeah, I
no,
mean our plan is
I
to launch around the Nakamoto. That's the target, and I think it's going to be deeper. We're aiming to have deeper liquidity than anything that exists currently on DotSwap, and provide a better trading experience than Magic Eden. So I think people are going to be pretty excited.
yeah, no, love it. Dylan, I don't know if you can hear me. I was just speaking, but yeah, let me know if does everybody hear me? Thumbs up, Bunsy. You hear
Can't
me?
hear you.
We can
Oh
hear you.
man.
Yeah. Oh
Oh,
man.
I'm rugged. I can't hear. I'll leave and rejoin. Sorry, y'all.
If you can hear me, I was talking. All right, farmer. What do you got?
Uh, yeah. You wait, Bunsy. You said that you can't hear me.
No, I can't hear you. No,
Are
I
you,
can hear you, bro.
oh, you can hear me. Okay, all right. Then we're good. My bad. My bad. I thought you guys were being serious. I think it was just still in there. Yeah. Look, like I think in a lot of ways, like anything that you can do with your L1 Bitcoin is a net positive. And it sounds like you guys have built a solution here that it all kind of settles on the L1, right? Like I'd imagine, me buying the runes themselves on the L1 front end doesn't necessarily settle into like a stacks address inside of my Xverse wallet. And to me, like that's just another way that we can add more functionality to Bitcoin. Whether this is the go forward solution for everything, that's kind of a TBD. But I'm excited for like broader product market fit. Yeah, just anything that you can bring to the table as like an experiment in more functionality, I think is certainly interesting. Obviously, I think it's going to put a bit of a dynamic at play between those who are using the L1 with 10-minute block times and stacks with I think 3 second or 14-second finality or something along those lines. But it'll be interesting to see this like come to fruition. And I guess I'm kind of curious, and maybe the answer is yes, that Xverse will have this in their wallet natively to do swaps into, which would be super fun. I think that would certainly be a cool, nice to have because it just opens up what you can do in Bitcoin without going through this visual wallet solution. And I just view like a wallet extension as like um, an internet bank account in a way. But if I can do this all on mobile, then it's a I'm mostly a mobile product maxi. But for like the stuff that is serious, obviously, I think going to your desktop and having a ledger with X versus for larger transactions is definitely like the right OPSEC to take. I think it was like Robert that might have brought this up on like another show, but he was saying that like you kind of have to have like three wallets. You have your like cold storage for like your long term Bitcoin, which is tucked away securely. Kind of view that as like a savings account that you don't necessarily touch. You have your mobile hot wallet, which is that you can just assume that one day the balance in there is going to vanish. Taking that into account for hot degenning, ASAP degenning when you don't necessarily have the time of day to get back to your desk to do something interesting. And then you have your desktop interface with a hardware wallet like Ledger that are signing transactions safely and securely for anything in between. I think that's like the optimal approach. Whether that's really followed in a lot of cases is a TBD, but yeah, I think having good, because we're all kind of believers in self custody. I think you do have to. The only person that you can blame is certainly um, yeah, is certainly yourself for not self custodying in the right way. Just because we have self custody doesn't mean that it's going to be safe and secure. Like, you are a steward of your capital. Like, whether you keep cash under the mattress or in a vault inside of your place or in a vault inside of a safe facility like a bank, or even one step further internationally like some people do, that to me is like the best example of those who truly believe in self custody in a lot of ways. So yeah, I think it's just important to do that on chain. Yeah, I mean, look, I think the runes market bounced back briefly. We're certainly kind of in this phase and stage where Udi was flooding everyone's bags with catnip, and everyone was panic selling every single last one of their bags, thinking that runes is not going to be the dominant Bitcoin standard. But Opcat is still not approved and still, I would say, a far ways out. So today's solutions, I think, for this cycle, if they're sticky enough, then they become social consensus. And I think, just because you have better tech in some way, shape, or form, it doesn't necessarily lead to broader adoption. I mean, we've seen this in other tech standards and circumstances like Betamax and VHS. We've seen it with HD DVD and Blu-ray. Yeah, like so many
I think this
examples.
is a bit different though. Like in my opinion, with AMMs and DeFi at large, like it's not by accident it hasn't like blown up. It's like there's the value proposition for Bitcoin is the security, and it's not like by accident that people aren't like, oh, I'm gonna put my Bitcoin in a multi-sig. Um, that's not, there's just no true secure way to address a market that's value proposition is security. Like there's Solana, there's these other alternatives, and there's this like delusion, I think, that like just because there's a fungible token standard on Bitcoin, that DeFi should take off. There's a clear reason, and I am super interested in Bitflow. Like you mentioned, stacks. Is that kind of going to be like, how does that go into your guys' stack as a DEX? Because the first letter in DEX is decentralized. I'm just curious of the approach, and if it's incorporating stacks and Nakamoto and what that looks like.
Yeah, I think you're right. The security is the biggest value add, and like there is an improvement here with like a federated multi-sig design, but it's not like, I mean, at the end of the day, it is a federated multi-sig. It's not like open, permission bridge for bringing runes to the stacks chain uh, for what we're working with for this iteration. But I mean, the trade-off is that we're not waiting for like the most perfect solution. We're building something that provides value to people today. Um, but yeah, on the user experience, it's nice because you can send a Bitcoin transaction, right? You're sending it to this address. Some flavor of Bitcoin is minted into a smart contract for that user on the Stacks chain. And the only things that can happen with that smart contract is that there's like a keeper running in the background on behalf of the user that can perform a swap that sends um, the SIP10 version of the token, the Stacks standard, back to that user, or it sends it back to the bridge to be sent, on layer one. So those are the
That's all
only
right.
two
So is
things.
the
Yeah.
is the transaction itself on Bitcoin, or is this like you're now in the Stacks ecosystem when the send is happening?
No, the great thing that we're excited about is like for traders, you don't have to like even know Stacks is being used.
So it's used as like a accounting layer, um, to some degree of just keeping kind
Yep,
of
that's fair.
um,
Yeah.
interesting. And
And and
then
and also like the pricing of the AMM itself lives on the Stacks chain, right? There I mean, you brought up a good point about like people some liquidity providers will be willing to take that risk of using this federated multi-sig bridge to put liquidity into the Stacks AMM.
Yeah,
But trader,
like
but
a few $1,000s, sure, but for true LP to even play its role, you need serious capital, and you know, there's reasons and a lot of past history of people not wanting to deploy capital in certain areas because of the risk there. And like
no,
once
I agree.
that's
But
solved, it's like turbo. But I
I think
guess
there's an even bigger problem, like with institutions not being able to even custody certain token standards. Like I think runes and maybe even for some SIP10, right? So like I think that's a first blocker that needs to be solved for more institutional capital flow into these pools. But
no doubt.
um,
That's
yeah,
interesting
yeah,
though. So I'm guessing through the interface of Bitflow, it triggers a send on stacks as well, keeping kind of state if of the position to some degree. And then um, I'm not too familiar with stacks, but is it similar to Fractal where it uses the same address as the mainnet? Um,
yeah. Different wallets use different derivation paths, I guess, right? Like X
yep.
first and Leather. But yeah, basically you can specify the Stacks address if you were wanting to swap your native Bitcoin for any SIP10 token on Stacks. You could specify like a Stacks address that that you wanted to receive that token on. But if
So
you're trying
yeah, no.
if you're
Now that
trying
I'm
to
thinking about it, I know it is. It starts with a S. I was just curious because one thing that I felt was kind of um, one of the only things that Fractal has done well is used a similar, like the same taproot address. I feel like that was because effectively Doge, Bells, all of them could have done it, and because like you said, it's just a like it spins up from the seed phrase and like it's just a path that could be used, but people, for branding or for differentiation purposes. But like what I felt was kind of cool is now people can airdrop and kind of interact with the taproot address. And that's why I asked. I was just curious because that was one, like I said, interesting thing that I've seen. And just as I try to wrap my head around the Nakamoto upgrade, and how all that rolls out. I find that pretty interesting. But yeah, we got Robert popping up, um, still flexing his alien node monk. I think that's I'm not used to not seeing the punk.
Bunzi, you sound absolutely wrecked today, so I'm gonna be completely honest. Like, where's the energy, my guy?
What? Sorry, I'm not super turbo stacked know it all. I'm trying to learn, dude.
Robert, how you feeling? How you feeling? I don't know if you want to share, but you feeling better?
Yeah, I'm a little wrecked, but mostly doing okay. But yeah, what's cooking? Did I just interrupt? Apologies
No,
if
we're
yes.
we're 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 just talking about the rune
Yes,
set
you interrupted,
that you floored that we acquired at a deep discount.
dude. Try to
Wait,
give you a
which
compliment on
runes?
your PFP.
All of them, sir.
Wow.
I believe you said that you floored all of your ordinals are dead. One of your biggest bags that you were bullish on.
Oh my god, dude, I'm getting called out. So there's a lot of content from the private group chat leaving the group chat today. What's what's going on?
Yeah, I mean it's capital loss season, so I don't blame anybody. No, look, we're just talking like runes being maybe back. Certainly more excitement around them than typically kind of flows into them. We have the Bitflow team here, which is doing something with Stacks as like I guess an accounting smart contract layer to abstract away the experience of I would say trading and decentralize the LP itself to live on Stacks through a federated multisig. Yeah, I mean like I think me and you discussed this like last week or maybe it was like a couple weeks ago where teams that are building, even if it means using centralized solutions to backstop some of the things that we want working on Bitcoin is further validation that the L1 user demands more functionality. And from like a builder's perspective, that's certainly like a net positive until we have smart contract like functionalities on the L1 that are possible to occur, be it through something like Arch or other solutions, or even piggybacked solutions, leveraging stacks as kind of the smart contract layer. I think all of these ways to try and at least decentralize some level of centralization that you have to undertake, is further validation that these things aren't necessarily going anywhere, and the momentum, both from like the user's perspective, is certainly demanding it, or at least willing to use some of these compromises for the fact that they can do something easier than an order book type of order. And I think we're trending away from order books. They're not necessarily, like, they are relatively capital efficient in the broader scheme of things, because it is a open marketplace. There is no capital, I guess, tied up per se, much like you would in an AMM. So in some ways they are more efficient, but from like a market maker perspective, uh, I mean, you list anything right now, and you're waiting 30 minutes to an hour to get that order across the board, even for assets that are, nine figures in market cap, which, shouldn't necessarily be the case. These things should be substantially more liquid. But the block times on Bitcoin and the lack of smart contracts inhibits us from delivering the experience that people really want to see, right?
Yeah, I agree. I do have to run, guys, but I don't know. It's fun to experiment and build in the space, and I think this is going to be a better UX and hopefully a stepwise improvement in the trading experience. I think that was one of the things that maybe felt like a little bit of a letdown with runes for people, and if we can get more people trading with Bitcoin, native BTC, more people trading with runes, I think that's a win for the Bitcoin ecosystem. So. Yeah, give Bitflow a follow. Check it out. Keep an eye out for when we go live here pretty soon.
Yeah. Thanks for
Thanks, guys.
joining us.
Yeah, enjoy chatting.
Yeah. Stoked to dive deeper into it. We got BG um, stepping up to the stage. Are you bullish runes right now? What's your rune bag look like?
BG, like, you
How
just
much
come out
money
of
do
the
you have?
woodworks. You truly have come out of the woodworks after summer. It almost feels like you were a last cycle influencer in this case.
Last cycle
Basically,
influencer. Dude, Robert and Farmer just throwing heaters today. Jesus.
It's like a
no,
boomer. A
the
boomer.
summer was a bit rough. Was dealing with some family stuff, so that's I think being back sort of like early September. It's been nice to sort of
Wait,
be back fully in it.
people pay attention to their families in crypto? That's not what I
Crazy.
was. That's weird. Okay, so
Yeah,
you were
no, glad
doing.
glad to have you back. Nonetheless, man. I know you mentioned you messaged me personally before that you're ready to cook. So it sounds like you're in a good spot, or a better spot than you were in the summertime. I think broadly speaking, you didn't miss much, man. You missed some.
Yeah, it was a bit slow this summer.
Yeah, it was a bit slow. It was kind of like the loading zone of down only zone for a lot of people. But I think, the excitement curve is certainly gonna come back. Whether October kind of shifts itself on the Bitcoin price is still a TBD, but I think generally speaking, we're all very optimistic in Bitcoin, L1 network activity, mempool fees themselves, promoting the fact that Bitcoin can be a self-sufficient ecosystem, when the block rewards themselves kind of eventually go down to zero. But this is, what is this, cycle 5 or something like that for Bitcoin, or is it 4? Can't really. I don't really know how people track cycles, but it's Yeah. It's certainly still like early in all things Bitcoin innovation. I think a lot of us see this as the inflection point for Bitcoin because it's really led by users, whereas in like the last DeFi cycle on Ethereum, it was really led by speculation from VCs. Really over investing in a lot of ways that inflated valuations into Lightning, which was kind of like the hottest topic of 2021 and 2020 up to like 2020, I guess, two ish in the Bitcoin space, and we all kind of see where that has kind of led to. In terms of like product market fit, there couldn't be a better product market fit than ordinals. Where that kind of takes us down the line as to other things getting product market fit is still a TBD, but Bitcoin remains, a pristine piece of collateral and the highest value asset, which has enough, velocity and Lindy effect, such that people care. I think builders don't really come and build on Bitcoin because it's the best operating system and tooling. If you really were like a product focused executor, you would quite simply just build on Solana. If I'm really really honest, but people build on Bitcoin. Builders build on Bitcoin because they care about Bitcoin and they care about this kind of new age of innovation. And so, you're not going to build the best, fastest product just yet on Bitcoin or lean into it at this moment in time. But I think we're all believers that, 2 years out, 4 years out, this all looks very different. And, much like the Bitcoin ecosystem looks very different than it did last year, the next year probably will shift what this chain really feels and looks like from like the Web3 user experience. And that will translate to, more attention, focus, especially in the cycle, as we kind of get into, more people using, demanding, and trading crypto, hopefully on Bitcoin.
Yeah, if I may add on to that, I do think that markets like this, benefits the bigger players the wealth because they can come in, sweep the floors on, Bitcoin layer one or marketplaces and anywhere else where it's being sold. They have enough money to pay the fees, to transfer over, to centralize exchange, to liquidate and come back and play again. While the smaller user that's holding a few bags may not have that benefit. And, when he's trading one, $100 or $1,000, it may not be beneficial for him to even make that trade. So I think it's more like, how do we bring the next, million users to Bitcoin? And I think that there's a lot for us to still build, but I think we have to build with what we have. But I would just like some thoughts on, if the clunkiness and the ecosystem and the mechanisms that exist today, do you think it benefits the will?
Yeah, I think so. For the reasons you just stated, I think like if there's ever been a market that's like geared towards sweeping is like the NFT market, and then you put fungible tokens on top of that in the gift card listed manner. Like you can just map out and look where like where the next biggest upside is and like where that floor price just goes turbo. And we've seen, on chain a few activities that have turbo pump tokens and because of this. So yeah, I think like what you're saying is 100% true.
Yeah, and on to that, I think that's one of the first pieces that we're trying to solve, and a lot of the other buildings in the ecosystem as well is, how do we have an AMM, or how do we have a pricing, mechanism that we can trust the price that we see, and that's not going to be 10 minutes later, or you're not going to be sniped or anything like that. But that's one that's what we think this mix is at least the best that we can deliver right now, and it would allow users to guarantee a price at the moment they click swap or buy, and then the 10-minute or 20-minute blocks that it takes to settle on Bitcoin is just a confirmation of that. So I think it's something that I think the whole ecosystem is working towards. But it is, I don't see a lot of whales complaining because they can come in and, like I said, sweep the floor, move a lot of money from one market to the other, buy the floor, repeat, rinse and repeat. And it's just, I don't want to go that route, and I don't want users to feel like lose momentum or hope because they don't have enough money to move things around, and we get another blur, activity happening on chain.
When it comes down to like pricing and oracles, for example, is this just something that you guys have built in-house to relay the oracle price feed from the AMM to like the front end to form the Bitcoin transaction? Or I'm just kind of curious.
The AMM is automatic market maker, so the price comes from the supply and demand in the pool composition. So if we start with 50% BTC, 50% pups, depends on how it moves, it changes the price from the price that was set at the beginning of the pool. So the AMM itself gives you the price, right? It generates the price. You can then compare to other sources or other marketplaces or other liquidity pools to see if it's a good deal or not. But the AMM itself, it's that individual pool defines the price. So that's why the deeper the liquidity pool, the better the price, the lower the slippage, and it allows us to compete with centralized exchanges as well. The vision is to stop people going to centralized exchanging and giving up 100% custody of their runes or ordinals or BRC20s. And I think we're getting there, right? But the price is interesting. It would be like a cool front end type of application where we would show here's the average price across all of these marketplaces and sources and liquidity pools and centralized exchanges. By swapping here, you're getting 4% more than the price. So like just to give the user sort of a visibility, but it's more in the analytics tools, which there's a lot of good builders out there building like some cool analytics dashboard that we can definitely implement into it. SAT screener, stacks tools, and so forth. But I see the price right now as a more of a comparison tool because the AMM itself does not use price oracles.
Got it. Yeah, no, I mean, super pumped to see this all kind of live and working over the next couple of weeks or so, however long it takes you guys after the Nakamoto upgrade. So yeah, we'll stay tuned and maybe have you guys back on the show once things have actually went live. We're talking about price, and we've talked about Fractal before, and I think when we first started talking about Fractal Bitcoin, it was around $30. It's at $7.50. I think a lot of people, myself included, and actually Robert included, because we've chatted about this earlier, is we didn't necessarily get into the Fractal ecosystem simply because the Fractal price itself and all of your assets being priced in FB was just such a big question mark, right? Like if you were optimistic in Fractal price, then certainly you had a much better appetite in staying on Fractal, and some of the mints have gone successfully, such as like Cat20 and a handful of other, I guess, memes. But if we're kind of like looking at Fractal price, it's down 80%. It's down like 60-70%, which actually is impairing my like feed. Like I haven't heard anyone talk about Fractal on the Western ecosystem in a very long time. Curious as to what your takes there on the Fractal side have been. I guess are we all coming back to Bitcoin? Or are the Fractal maxis?
Yeah, I
no longer
nuked my
maxis?
Fractal yesterday. So yeah.
No.
After losing about 50% of what I made by staying in Fractal. So there's that.
So you're still up though, BG, just to confirm? Like it was still a good exercise?
Still up, but certainly if it was just 1 or 2 days earlier and, went to dApp swap and swapped out, would be, up about 50% more. So yeah, it's great.
Out of curiosity, what drew you into Fractal? Like, what inspired you to start experimenting and trading in this ecosystem?
Certainly Unisat. I didn't, to me, it sort of was always a bit of a side quest, sort of narrative. I think that the launch seemed pretty rushed. It didn't seem like, I was just talking with Matt, of course, from Arch yesterday. Like, I think when you're launching another layer, like you should probably have or try and line up as many apps as you possibly can to hopefully be building or sort of launching on mainnet day one. It didn't seem like they really had that. I think Cat 20 was a big surprise to me as well. So I don't know. I think it was, to your question, Robert, certainly Unisat and some of the money that they can bring behind that. And they did, at least for the first couple days, first week maybe. And then Cat 20, I'm still going to hold on to. Seems to be interesting. So I still have all my Cat and Cat 20 tokens, but no longer really holding much FB.
Yeah, no, I mean that totally makes sense. I mean, we've actually seen a little bit of like a resurgence to proof of work chains, partially caused by Fractal, but also kind of ground up from zero market cap of distribution on the Bell side of things. One of the bigger announcements I think last week or so was that Binance is supporting Bell's mining directly on their platform. It seems like the Bell's maxis have been more right than the Fractal maxis, considering
Wait,
price
say
go
that
up.
again for the people in the back.
I own absolutely zero Bells, just to make that clear. But like kudos to you guys. I think in a lot of ways, like ground up from zero, no centralized entities, VCs, and so forth is generally like a very well received theme and trend that can work out over the duration of time. Of course, on like the Bell side of things, we saw massive amounts of hash rate being allocated to Bells. So the real winners are really the miners, which are able to, absolutely print on mining Bells. In the earliest times, when the difficulty levels were like extremely low.
Exactly, and it was merge mining, so
Yeah, it was merge mine
you were
exactly.
mining Doge, like that was. And just for some insight there, like they're called epochs, but effectively they're just halvenings. Same thing. It does like the whole cycle of Bitcoin in 1 year. So in November, the last halvening, so the emissions are going to go um, down again, therefore putting less tokens into circulation if the same activity occurs. But yeah, I think Bells is super interesting on that front. But to the fractal point, what I think is super interesting is proof of concept around OpCat and really battle testing some of these concepts that Udi and some others are screaming from the mountaintop that are going to be the saving grace of Bitcoin. And if so, like this is the place to prove it, in my opinion, because it it offers and lends itself to faster block times, a lot of other things. And Cat 20, I think, is really interesting for those that are looking to, if and when OpCat comes into mainnet. Like I think BG said it great, like side quests, but it is a test net effectively with a bunch of users and real use case and real tokenomic dynamics where you can get a solid pulse and feel for what it would be like. So the fact that a lot of ordinal maxis are kind of not seeing that is interesting to me, because if that's going to be the thing that pumps mainnet to a place to Valhalla of like getting concatenation, getting like you know layer one security, like that's what I'm looking at it as. And there's been some really, really interesting innovations around like global order books, dexes, and just Cat 20 putting programmability into the UTXO as like a smart contract is really, really interesting. So um, for that alone, I think it's worth diving into Fractal and testing the waters.
I mean, this is actually one of the takeaways from Token 2049 that I had. I went to a cat meetup, which is actually really interesting because most of those, yeah, no, that not those types of cats, but maybe. Look, like I went to a cat meetup and it was really interesting to see that most of the builders were Asian builders that are focused on cat development. Script was there, which is trying to bring more, I would say libraries around cat. There were builders like DotSwap. Jack Liu was doing his best Kendall Jenner front row camera filming episode where he was super proud of his children as the number one KOL for Fractal for sure. And look, like I think like you guys had mentioned, this is like very net positive for Bitcoin development. But whether cat comes Q1 of next year or Q4 of next year, it really is like a massive question mark as to when it actually goes live. And I think at this point in time, with the velocity of on-chain activity and really kind of an influx or potential bull run kind of coming up very soon, we're going to have to solve for the problems today with solutions that actually work today. But of course, like Fractal is going to be a fantastic experimentation bed for a lot of people and a lot of builders. It really just depends what exactly Fractal retains from like a user base perspective. It's only going to be a great cat test bed if there is, a substantial amount of network activity and users that remain, even as Fractal Bitcoin price continues to creep downwards slower and slower.
That part.
You know,
But
so,
one
so,
thing I do
so
want to point out too is like the
yeah.
fact that they use the same taproot address is extremely like in hot like such an obvious thing that other like chains should have done that because it makes it extremely useful for people to airdrop like their token holders something that has more through like that needs more trading velocity like fungible tokens like and the fact that they're going to be bridging over BRC20s is pretty interesting. I do think all of it is primed for like developers that want to see the L1 flourish because anyone that's launched a project knows that when you launch something, things go wrong due to traffic, due to a lot of things. So testnet is only good as like a small sandbox to, but to get high, and get people clicking and get things on breaking your app effectively is a good thing. And I think it's like the best playground for that. Um, and but for traders, like yeah, your your assets being denominated in fractal is clearly right now proven to be kind of hectic. And it's kind of like I kind of told you so. It's like, yeah, a VC funded chain is, they have to sell tokens and recoup. And as much as people say that tokens are vesting and all that, I just, we've seen this story so many times, like reverse VC exits, and it's kind of just watching it play out is kind of unfortunate again. But I do, to their credit, I do think the token came out way higher than they anticipated, and where it's at maybe now is maybe more realistic. But there was a lot of FOMO, kind of pre-Rune vibes going on leading into them going to mainnet.
Well, I mean, like I read like a really good tweet not that long ago. I think it was like today, this morning, where someone's just like, I want Western protocol developers and business-minded founders with the Eastern go-to-market strategy. I mean, it
That
really is.
bangs.
It really would be like a recipe for a massive win. I think the one thing that like Asia does very well is propagate the interest and actually knows what some of the KPIs and value movers for some of these chains, protocols, and so forth really are. Whereas like the West, maybe we're just brokies and we don't necessarily have enough TVL to, or maybe we just don't have real influencers like the East really it does, where they can actually move things and create awareness around certain protocols and
Wait, I
change.
want to unpack this thesis a little bit more. So you're telling me if Western teams shipped like Eastern teams, it would be turbo, and then there was some other stuff, but I like
Yeah,
that part.
I think the long story short is like imagine a Western team that was focused on what Unisat and Fractal could really look like, both with like UX, broad market, approach with
But
like
China number one, you can't have two number ones.
I mean, yeah, I mean, look, like you can't argue that they go and take things to market, much more quickly than the Western teams. I think part of that is obviously due to regulatory strategy, and they're able to bend the rules to their favor, and have many micro cabals on the inside that just tend to know the right people. I mean, a lot of these centralized exchanges like Binance and OKX, they're all based in Asia, predominantly, in terms of where they kind of originated. And the Western, centralized exchanges like Coinbase and Kraken, they do move at a much more, I would say slow-paced, regulatory friendly manner. We all see what happens with centralized exchanges when they try to do things in the same manner that they do in Asia in the West. I mean, Binance USA doesn't exist. And FTX arguably had a much, more similar go-to-market plan to Asian centralized exchanges, and yeah, that certainly didn't work out to anyone's favor, considering yeah, I don't know. Maybe FTX is one of those teams where it was Eastern execution with Western devs and business minded people, and it went straight to zero.
Yeah, go ahead, Diego.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking out loud, I've seen reports that because there's not that many traditional finance products available to the regular Chinese user like we have here in the US, right? Because we have a lot of opportunities to make 8, 9, 10, 15% APY a year. You got Roth IRA, you got all of that great stuff that was created in the 80s, that they don't have, right? We also have mortgages. In China, you have a surplus of homes. So homes, buying a home doesn't really become the best way to increase your wealth. But then there's
Yeah,
also,
don't forget, the West has the U.S. dollar, which is still trusted as a
yes,
currency.
yeah, and then they also have crypto as a way to circumvent China's strict capital controls, so that these citizens can move money around. So it's kind of like there's a multiple benefits on top of the network effects of right, the number of users, but we also see like Korea, which has a very active crypto community, but they're also very strict in terms like I don't think they have listed any runes to this day or BRC20 on the two main Korean exchanges. Users are looking for more of a, and this is according to our own research, but users are looking for more a long-term sustainability and sustainable products and apps and DeFi than just a sort of short win because their life savings depends on it. Which here in the US, it's like, oh, crypto didn't work, just going to go back to doubling my Roth IRA or something like that, right? There's still that sort of demand that doesn't exist in the Western countries.
Yeah, I mean, when Nvidia stock just outperforms any sort of crypto asset, and the West understands Nvidia stock, Reddit, Wall Street bets, you name it, all the degen traders are still focused on equities. Yeah, it really does mean a lot of that capital or that risk capital from the West doesn't necessarily translate to it, particularly because there are better returns out there. Now, I mean, it's an interesting, like, I guess, perspective to consider too. Is what if Nvidia and tech stocks don't necessarily perform as well as they have over the last 2 years or so? We're getting to the point where most people are in the AI trade and have made, a reasonable amount of money if you were, early into the trade itself. But what if the growth, I guess, isn't necessarily as monster as it has been and doesn't necessarily meet expectations from those traders and those people allocating risk capital? Well, maybe suddenly crypto becomes a much more degen friendly to gamble into, from like a risk perspective. I mean, it's just obviously, food for thought. And now we have very accessible access across the board in, trading accounts like Roth IRAs and so forth from every single US citizen. You have things like Moonshot, which have enabled one-click access and funding from Apple Pay directly in a Solana wallet into Sol, which allows you to speculate on I would say sub $10 million meme coins, true to the Moonshot name. I think maybe the attention does shift back. I think most of us are still pretty patient. We're still believers in the bull run catching up to the rest of the market. But I think like the bull run over the last 2 years really was on the equity side, which was dominated by the AI trade, which is where most of the risk capital tended to form. Now the other like side part to that is when you do have technical unlocks and feature unlocks, be it speed, throughput, I would say development unlocks and so forth, it does generally translate to more attention, velocity, and risk capital making into the sector. That's personally like my own thesis on the Bitcoin, L1 trade and the Bitcoin L1 asset trade to begin with. Robert and I talked about this last night, but like we're pretty cooked to just be here, given the fact that we're using a chain that barely works. Like, obviously, I don't think we're wrong, but we're certainly contrarian in a lot of ways. And contrarian trades, contrarian outcomes tend to enrich those who were there from a very early point in time, until mass adoption or at least mass social consensus picks up, to make it like I would say like a crowded risk capital allocation sector or something along those lines. But I think like technical unlocks are generally bullish. In Web3, a lot of people have made their way to Bitcoin from EVM and even Solana, and they just use this for 10 minutes, and they're just like, this sucks. Like, well, why would we wait 10 minutes for a block? I mean, and even if you can get around the 10-minute block times, you're just like, uh, yeah, like there's only so many things that I can do here, whereas you can do so many other things in the EVM. You can speculate way harder on Solana too in meme coins, and so Bitcoin right now doesn't necessarily do anything better other than ordinals themselves. But maybe we can change that, right? Like I think velocity of unlocks in feature unlocks creates net new opportunities, and so I'm very optimistic in that we can do quite a lot more things in the short term. I would say in the next 4 months or so.
All right, we're coming to the top of the hour. I want to open it up. Dude, we're in October. What is your game plan? What I don't know who's gonna start it. Maybe I'll start it. But like, what is the game plan to not post screenshots and actually pull away generational wealth this October, rolling into election month, November? What, like, personally, I'm just buying runes that keep going down, and that's not working out. So, um, you know, I'm going to keep rotating into bells until the last epoch and then DCA out. And then hopefully I can send farmers some banging screenshots. But how are you going to get your screenshots into stables?
Yeah, I mean, look, I met Mr. Yen's son at Token 2049. He was absolutely throwing bans at the Iggy party at the strippers. also known by his other name, Zusu, chief degen of last cycle, who continues to be the meme coin degen of this cycle. No, I'm just joking. Look, I think at the end of the day, holding onto good bags with good communities is obviously going to pan out very well. One of the best, I would say, presentations at Token was by a trader, a meme coin trader, actually by the name of Murad. And he had this view that if you back good cult communities that make people feel some type of way, that's going to be where the alpha tends to come from. And his view on this is selling now is an irresponsible thing to do. You sell when the market is appropriate to do so. You sell, in a bull run. And so, like the biggest, trades that you can actually make are, buying things right now that are gonna one maintain attention and maintain growing their holder base of communities. One of the best examples of that is really like the Billy community, and just they kind of came about from nothing. And it's just like it's just Billy glasses here. I see Matt rocking them. I see Jan from Xverse rocking them. It's just one of those traits, or one of those things that feels like getting mogged in a way. And obviously the community, has survived, massive volatility upwards and downwards. And it's one of those things where I think it could last from like an attention curve perspective, into being kind of a potentially multi-cycle meme. And I think in Murad's view, he had a very set framework as to like how he, I guess, analyzes meme coins. Still from like a degenerate point of view, trying to find things early, trying to find things that are forming attention, trying to find things that are well distributed and don't necessarily have concentrated holders, devs, and founders, and so forth. These are all like net positives, and I think right now the best trade is really no trade, and it's just stacking your positions. Hopefully you've had basically like 4 months to do so, as an investor or a trader, and you don't buy things like this for like a 2x return. If all you're making is a double on your bag, then your negative EV on your meme coin trades and your holdings is just it's just math. There's so many meme coins out there, and failures to sell at a 2x. You're gonna really miss gen wealth when these things become multi-cycle communities. And so that was like one of the best takeaways that I had from his 30-minute speech. He was also speaking with like Ansem, Iggy, I believe it was like Joe McCann as well, just on the stage talking about meme coins. That presentation was also reasonably exciting. But his solo speech was as someone who enjoys trading these things and holding with like a cycle view, that was probably like something that shaped my own perspective and decision making process over the next 6 months or so. So hold, don't sell, keep stacking good stuff. Don't chase.
So insightful. I'm just trolling, but no, dude. What ticker are we buying? Is kind
I
of what I
mean,
was asking.
there's only one world peace coin, and I think based on today's
There it is.
news,
No, dude. I mean, Modang Kook posted about that, and I actually felt something. I was like, I looked at my fucking bonk bot, was like, whoa, this is what crypto is. I remember now. Like retarded numbers that you screenshot and don't sell. This is fun. I feel like we're going into like the animal like cycle on Solana, like the sushi food token era.
I think
Um,
I think like over the last couple of days, the meta has been CTO emoji coins.
oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which ones did you get?
Oh, bro, I don't chase, sir. I just stack good stuff.
No, this is investing I'm talking about. I'm investing in emojis and like fundamentally how we communicate as humans, it's quite rich.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some like emoji inscriptions out there to speculate on Bitcoin. If I'm not mistaken, it was like I think there's like some sort of 10K collection. I believe I think I actually think Danny DZ is one of the largest holders as a believer of the emoji ordinals trade.
Dang.
I actually have a fuckload of those things, to be honest. It was one of the early experiments on Bitcoin ordinals that I just like max minted. This was post like
Lit.
Bitcoin punks days.
It's time to package that up in an ordinals 404 and convert it into a runes meme coin where you can go back and forth.
I think I have the first like eggplants inscription. Like I got some like pretty juicy ones, to be honest. Like some really really nice one. I think I got the first
Sounds
grapes.
juicy. The
Yeah, it's
eggplant, that is the definition of juicy.
provenance on Bitcoin. Eggplant provenance.
That's where we're at in the cycle, is eggplant provenance on Bitcoin.
Well,
But
it's good to know that Robert has the first eggplant on Bitcoin. Maybe that's maybe that's the narrative.
we got some new people up. Feel free to chime in. We're degenning the last 10 minutes. Where are you losing your money in down timber? Or how would that even work?
Buy
Up.
node monks. Buy node monks. NFA. Buy node monks.
Financial advice, buy emoji tokens on Solana. No, but
I'd love to know
I,
who's going to Amsterdam here. It's just around the corner now.
oh yeah. Amsterdam last year was goated. That's like we were down so bad and like everyone still bought their ticket and went and just were like, somebody's gonna care someday. And there was a lot of real dope people at the last Bitcoin Amsterdam, but I'm not going. So probably bullish for Bitcoin. But who is going?
Well, I'm
Farmers.
going, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Well,
no, I'm skipping the conference thing next week. I mean, it was a toss up for me between permissionless and ordinals Amsterdam. I think I'm just a bit conferenced out after the sprint in Asia that I just want to like sit still for at least October. I think there's I think it's not necessarily a bad thing, but we'll be back. We'll be back, sir.
Asher had a good tweet on this yesterday, but when you really think about it, the first 9 months or so of ordinals was kind of up only, and there was no dedicated ordinals conferences. So I don't know, some lessons in there.
so you're telling me that conferences, yeah, dude, every time I go to a conference, I'm like, I'm gonna get so much work done, and I just end up just fucking partying the whole time and not pulling out my laptop, and I'm just like, yeah,
Sir,
I'm still
networking is not working.
whoa, bars.
No, I mean, look, we can't fade the fact that conferences have pushed things to all-time highs. Like, look at ETH Denver. I mean, I think we were all super excited to see the ETH folks finally catch wind of what is actually going on Bitcoin. This was like 2 or 3 months after NodeMonks minted out, and basically going from 0.03 all the way to 0.8 Bitcoin was a massive win for a lot of holders. Uh,
Dumping our bags on ETH maxis was glorious.
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of those people that have minted actually did not end up holding all the way throughout. Most of them were probably out between like 0.15 and 0.2. So I think it was more of like coping.
There's a lot of cope in the air. Um, I don't know, dude. I'm just is October a wash? It's still not going up. Is it up like November? What are we thinking? I got I've been preparing for this, and it's pretty few hours in, and not I'm not rich. Um, I don't really know what to do now.
I mean, October has to paint a really good chart, so it's down today, and then it's up only till the end of the month.
Promise?
I mean, or it's down only for the rest of the month. There's
Yeah,
no.
so you're saying the price can go up or down from here?
Yeah, I'm certain that the price either goes up or down, Bonzi.
Okay, nice. All right. So we're certain. That's good. There's been a lot of uncertainty in the air. But over DGen, you're up here hanging. I want to make sure anyone that's up here wants to get in some comments before we wrap this up. I got to go um, deploy some more capital in this down only market. But yeah, over DGen, Wolf Bitch. That's a cool name. Nice, nice. Light. Or you don't have to say anything. That also works. BG, how are you making your generational wealth this October?
I'm just buying. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm just buying more. I'm just buying more runes. And just being in Zen mode. I just like I don't need to do anything right now. I haven't sold really anything over these past months. Just sitting on my hands, just waiting. So that's what I'm doing.
Gen wealth was already achieved. Love it in Zen mode right now.
Well, no, I actually, my kids are in debt and I don't even have kids yet. And I was told that crypto fixes this. And there's a lot of people on the timeline saying October. And every time I buy something, it goes down. Really just trying to figure this one out, guys.
No, Bunzi, you'll be fine.
All right.
Yeah, like there's nothing to worry about. You
Just
know,
keep shilling me tickers and they
Arch,
keep going down.
just stay on the L1, man. Honestly, just stay on the L1. You know, you just gotta wait for Arch to come and
Win
save the
Arch.
bags.
Matt,
You
win
know,
Arch.
but before Arch comes, we have Bitflow, which is gonna be round one of bag saving mode. Like it's gonna be fine, man.
All right.
It's been a good month so far. 13 hours, 14 hours of
Dude, this month has sucked, dude. I thought I was gonna wake up and just like have a pep in my step. Robert comes up here, he's like, dude, you sound bummed. It's like, well, yeah, dude, I just fucking went 100x leverage on fucking Moodang and motherfucker didn't have any cute photos today or something.
Did
And
you
it,
actually? Like, no joke? That really
what?
happened?
Yeah. What
Holy
do you
fuck.
mean? You don't send it?
100x Lev is highly degenerate. We don't even have these tools on Bitcoin. Like, honestly, we need them. I want to go
Yeah.
100x Lev on, I don't know, something
Uh,
degen.
on a super speculative meme coin, it's basically like Roth IRA like 101.
I think we just need perps for ordinals, like 100x leverage on node monks. I'll take that trade any day.
Hold my beer. Swag, how are you making Gen Wealth?
Yeah, that should play out. I'm just waiting on the perps.
I'm just waiting on the
I'm just
perps.
making close until perps drop.
You should make perp close.
Bro, yeah, that's a good
Can I
call.
100x your close?
Yeah,
Wait,
just like a fucking screenshot of a P&L perp that's up a lot. But then on the back, it shows that
that we're back.
you didn't sell. It's just like the result of the trade.
On the back is to just say we're. Um, maybe not. All right. We're back. We're probably not. I don't think we're coming back. Down Tober. Um, anyone else got any alpha or ways I can lose some money?
Let's hear Matt's thesis on the node monk Billy PFP. I want to know if he's commented on this yet.
Let's hear that. I'm curious to know too.
I think Matt's joined, but he's on another call. But maybe
No, I'm here.
uh,
No, I got a great deal on it. It feels practically free to me at the price that I got it. Thanks, Robert. You're such a nice guy.
Dude, I love how we got matching traits up here. It's looking good. The count left eyes. I'm just a sucker for the left eyes notebooks personally. I cannot get enough of these ones. But anyway, yeah, it looks good.
I guess
Yeah, well,
Matt
mine's
is
got Billy
really
glasses though, so
Matt. You're taking a custom loan on Liquidium or something like that at 100% APR for 12 months. Is that what you guys have done?
no, it was actually a verbal contract in Nashville. He sold it to me.
Oh my god, I got wrecked. Got absolutely fucking wrecked.
All right, Bunzi, let's wrap this one up today. We'll be back on Thursday at the same exact time. Yeah, hopefully October vibes will be Octobering, and yeah, till next time.
Yes, stop showing me tickers that go down.
I'm way too busy to hate on a bitch. Your bank account look like she banking on tips. I came up from nothing, was laying on bricks and sleeping in panels and paying no rent. Everyone looks you and claim don't exist. When I made $1 million, they said it, I switched. My watch is too pricey, my chain is on lit, my diamonds are icy. I'm skating on this. Skating like Gretzky back in the 80s, I'm looking for 12, but that isn't better. You niggas in jail, but that is me. I keep it myself, if that's what it takes me. That you bastards play me, it's the same day me and Jennifer Lopez announced, so we gon' be having a baby, having some twins and two in the back. You want the fame, but you want last. The difference between me and you is you trash.